From day one, we are told who we should be, how to live, and what's acceptable. Before we even have a chance to discover ourselves, our society has already drawn those lines for us. But what happens when those lines are keeping us from knowing and embracing who we truly are? Welcome to Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox, a podcast about unpacking and unlearning everything that's kept you from living as your true self. Through honest conversations about your internal emotional landscape, sexuality, coming out later in life, relationships, and the journey to self-acceptance, we break free from the boxes we never chose. Hi, Robin. So lovely to have you here and so nice to see you. I think the last time I saw you was, oh my gosh, what was it, like 2 years ago already? Something like that, or a year and a half ago?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess it is. That's hard to believe. Time's a mystery.
Yeah. How long have you been doing your podcast?
I mean, I guess it's been like 3 years now.
Okay. So it might be like a year and a half or 2 years ago when I came on your podcast, but
yeah,
now we're in switched roles here. So,
yeah,
yeah.
excited.
Yeah. So I'm so happy that you decided to come on, and I am here really for you. So this is your opportunity to share with me, what are you struggling with? I saw your application. I know that you said in the middle of a divorce. And you're kind of struggling a little bit around your sexuality, but I'm really here to help you think of things in a new way, or see things through a different lens, or just open things up and unpack them with you. So how can I help you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm really honored and really excited to be able to have this conversation with you. It's almost feels indulgent, and because I've been watching you on TikTok for so long, and when I started my podcast, I was invited by my good friend Sarah. She's like, "Do you want to co-host this with me?" And this was right when everything was starting to fall apart in my life. And so doing that podcast, having all of these conversations around sexuality, and then also seeking out people like you. I had found you on TikTok, and I had never heard the term compulsory heterosexuality or comp het until you. And it blew my mind open. It seems like in retrospect now how familiar I am with it and how aware I am, it almost seems impossible that I spent over 40 years not being aware of it. Because I feel like I'm a little bit unusual in certain respects, that I have been involved in the queer community since I was a teenager. I've always had close queer friends. They've called me straight but queer. I've just had this air about me, it never made sense to my friends. I would have these femme friends who would get mistaken for being straight, and I would be the one mistaken for being gay. And now in retrospect, I'm like, it's so obvious. I'm performing at the, Los Angeles Eagle, doing all this gender bashing stuff, and then going home to this very straight, very typical, white man. And gosh, it's just so complicated. I feel like I think that I had a really, in retrospect, now that I've unpacked my trauma as well in therapy, is I had a lot of misogyny in my house growing up. And so from my my father, who's a very misogynistic worldview kind of guy, very angry, entitled kind of person. And my mother being this kind of second wave. No, she would never have called herself a feminist, but being this, it's the 80s, I'm going to go to work. And, I was a latchkey kid left home alone with my brother, who was older and had a lot of anger issues, and would basically, it was I lived with my bully at home. And so I think I had this real desperation for, I also want to mention, I don't think women going to work is a type of misogyny. I think my mom was really trying to insert herself into what had typically been the male role. And she was at the same time very negative towards girly girl. anything. She didn't like, women are boring. Women's romance movies are boring and all of this stuff. And it was just like, women are gossipy and annoying. And I prefer to hang out with men, and just trying to be in that power position, I think. So, I mean, the worst thing you could be called in my house is a girly girl. And it would be thrown at me every once in a while. And I remember there'd be like these tests of like me to behave more masculine than, like we had a tarantula that my dad had found. And I remember, them joking that I wouldn't want to touch it, and because I'm a girl basically. And so then I remember being like 4 years old or 5 years old and just being like, you can do this. And crawling on my arm and being like, you're okay with this. You're okay with this. It's the 80s.
Oh my goodness.
So, and just in that kind of space where it really, I had to, as a child, become, appealing to these males for my own safety, to get my mother's affection. I had to be as little female as possible. And I remember just like wearing dresses or whatever and being like, I don't want to wear this monkey suit, because I was intuiting like that it was a diminutive thing to do. So now, like, I consider myself non-binary. I've never felt male or female, but I wonder a lot, like, is it because there was this total rejection of femininity? Or is it because this is truly who I am? And then there's like the sexuality stuff where I think I was just so desperate, like literally desperate for male affection. And then, you realize that sexuality is this easy way to get their attention. But I think I confused attention for affection and, lust for love and all of this stuff, So I don't think I ever achieved that of like getting the love that I wanted from men. And maybe now that I'm not seeking it in a desperate way, maybe that'll come about. But now, for the first time in my life, like I just don't care about their opinions. I'm not dressing for men anymore. I'm not, just doing so many things that felt wrong, but I just wanted that approval and love from them. And now that that's gone, I can see the ways in which I've sold out myself, how I've sold out women over the years, and I'm just like this openness right now of just waiting to see what it is that actually draws me on my deep core level. And I have so many different thoughts about it. Like I've had lots of relationships with women. I've had lots of sex, not relationships, but I've had lots of sex with women. But I think I always did it in this kind of male gaze kind of way, where it was still performative within this, like, what would be sexy to men kind of way. And
in terms of, sorry to interrupt you, Robin, but in terms of what would be sexy to men in terms of how you were in okay.
Well, I think I formed all of my sexuality around what men think is sexy, because I think I actually inserted myself into their role much in the way I think my mom was doing that at work, right? So I thought that, I could play this whole game that is actually very derogatory towards women or abusive towards women. Like you see these like porns where it's like, just so much like pounding and so much like just men doing things to women. And I was like, if I participate in the game knowingly and willingly and act as though I'm having fun with that, then I'm not a victim to it. I'm part of the game. And now I realize in retrospect, especially after going through my divorce or processing, that is, I was never actually part of the game. It doesn't matter how masculine I behave or how much I'm into what they're into. I'm not going to be the equal in that situation in their eyes. And that's like, as my relationship disintegrated, I realized like, we were never equal partners. It was always that he was going to be in charge. So once I stopped people pleasing, it was total destruction. It's just, and once I stopped having sex with him, then we have no relationship.
Yeah.
And that was really shocking to me in the most obvious way. In retrospect, I was like, oh, it is that they don't want to be around me if I'm not offering this service, so that just blew everything open. But in general, it's like I remember being very attracted to my high school best friend. I came out to my mother when I was 16. I was like, Mom, I think I'm gay. And she said, No, you're not. I see the way you look at boys and men. And I was like, and it shook me. And I think it was like after a lifetime of being gaslit about who I am and what I deserve and, around all of my emotional stuff, that I just kind of believed her. I was like, she sees something that I don't see. And here's the other thing that I only recently discovered is that I think that I thought I should be attracted to women or other genders in the way that men are attracted to women. And so if I'm not feeling that kind of look at her body kind of situation, then it's not real sexual attraction. And I'm just starting to grasp the concept that you could be attracted to the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think it comes out of this real lack that's in the kind of heteronormative male attraction towards women, where you don't have to like her. You probably don't even like her. But you can be sexually attracted to her. You can still fuck them, right? And I don't know that when I shed that, I don't really have that. So there's certain people in my life where I'm like, this person's very compelling. I'll be looking at them like, I just find you so interesting. And I'm like, is that it? I'm not totally sure where it is. And so I don't know if I'm going to come out of this as like still being this queer, funky, somewhat heterosexual person. I think it's still possible that I could be attracted to men, but I have a disgust, repulsion now towards the power dynamic that happens in heterosexual relationships where, like, I know now that if like you haven't unpacked your misogyny on some level, you are going to be inadvertently misogynistic because that's our world. I'm not totally sure where to go with that and how to really find my sexual attraction. Oh, one other thing you should know. I had tons. I was known as like the role-playing person. I taught classes on role-playing. I was a dominatrix for the first decade of my adulthood, and I teach kink classes and stuff like that. I deconstructed all of these fantasies that I had that were very misogynistic, and I realized I would be taking on this male role within it. It's almost like being both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw the recent White Lotus, but there's a guy who's talking about he's not sure if he wants to be him fucking the other person or if he wants to be that person being fucked by him. And it's like all of this. And I'm like, I think my fantasy life was really swirled up into it, but ultimately it was about masculine desire in a heteronormative situation. So I did all of this work where I would masturbate and the fantasies would come. And so I wanted to get rid of them. And so I would like watch a very neutral, like television show, like freaking Bob's Burgers or something, and so I could just disconnect my mind from the pleasure part. And then eventually I stopped watching the television and I've gotten to a point where I'm just in the pleasure zone, which is huge for me. So I can just engage with my body on that level.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm in that spot, but I'm like, who's not that I want an object of desire, but I'm like, I don't know what my type is. I just feel very blank slate. And so I feel like I've done a lot of unboxing and now I'm ready to rebox. Not that I want to box or like, I don't know, maybe I have like a tote bag instead of a box or what's more.
Yeah, just sort of like kind of start filling in who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say today,
Mm-hmm.
and now, because, there's been so much shifting that's happened. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? From the beginning
Even
until now. And there might be more shifting that happens. So
mhm.
as you're filling in your tote bag, to not
Right.
feel like anything is like, there for good.
Mhm.
Because if it stops working for you, you can always take it out. And also to, I don't know, I think that, I mean, I love where you are. It feels like there's a lot of unknown and a lot
Mhm.
of uncertainty, which is very expansive. And also, I'm not sure if it feels at all scary, because I think, sometimes the brain doesn't really like that much uncertainty and unknown. And
Mhm.
so I don't know if there's any, it sounds like you're very comfortable in the place that you are. Is there any fear at all of being in this place that you are, like, that you don't know? Like, I don't know. I don't even know who I'm going to be attracted to. Like, I don't know what kind of relationship I might want to be. I don't know how I'm going to identify
Mhm.
when I'm intimately involved with a partner. Like, I don't know, what role I'm going to play. I want to be myself, like, whatever
Mhm.
that is, but I don't quite know what that is. And is there any emotionality around that, or is it very calm and you're just like, and that's okay. I'm figuring this out.
It's both. It's both. I think that I'm very calm about how it is with my own identity, except for I have a fear that I'm actually heterosexual
Okay.
and I don't want to be. And I think and so I'm like, is this just my desire? But then I'm like, maybe would a straight person wish they weren't straight? And I've always I've admired friends that are pansexual. I'm like, I wish I could just fall in love with the actual person and not have this exterior part be part of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm wondering if that wish isn't actually just me not being connected to my actual desire. Like, would I
Yeah.
wish to be pansexual if I wasn't pansexual?
Right.
Like, would I wish to be trans if I wasn't trans? I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that part, I'm worried that I might actually end up being straight. I mean, let me tell you, I have like 2 straight friends out of like many, many queer. I am in the queer community. I am throwing my 12th annual Pride pool party in June. And I've always like, Pride is literally my favorite holiday. I mean, it's competing with Halloween, but it's like, and those are the 2 gayest holidays.
Yeah.
And so I love it so much. I love queerness so much. I love the subversion of gender roles and expectations about what we're going to look like. So there's all of that. The other big fear I have is that I'm going to get into a sexual situation or a heart connected situation and find out I'm not actually sexually attracted to this person. Like in a lesbian role or like a gender fluid type of thing. So I worry about that. I worry that I'm not going to be as skilled sexually with women. It's been over a decade that I've had sex with anybody but this particular man that I've been married to. And then also my sexual stuff just with women, like I was saying, it was had this kind of almost like how it would be playing out in a porn that's directed towards men type of situation. So
Yeah.
how would I be sexually outside of that view? So I worry about hurting people. I worry about not having the relationship skills to be with a woman. I
Yeah.
mean, there are some simplicities towards being with cis hetero men. So that's my main worry. I worry about hurting other people. I was in a relationship with a woman in college and we broke up and it was disastrous. She ended up like trying to commit suicide and it was just this drama stuff and so I think I still have a thing of like, don't fuck with people's emotions or particularly women's emotions on that level. So I worry about that. And then I was like, I broke up with her because I wasn't feeling the sexual attraction. And then that led me to think I made the decision in my mind since then, you're just not, you're straight. You know, it didn't work. But now in retrospect, I'm like, okay, you tried once, you know?
Right.
And of course, none of your relationships work from college, you know?
Right. Right.
So I don't know. It's a mystery, but I do have some fears around, particularly around hurting people, not being enough in relationships, and whether or not my sexual attraction is real, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That you can really trust it at this point in time. It sounds like you've done so much work unpacking it that, and
Yeah.
you're, you know how to feel pleasure with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How do you open yourself up to that with somebody else and feel that desire toward them and know that that's coming from that really self-oriented place?
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of questions that, just as you were speaking before, do you identify as a monogamous person? Are you like, does ethical non-monogamy kind of resonate for you? Poly, like, where do you fall there?
I've always felt poly. I've done monogamy for as a people pleasing thing, I think, for people that it was important to. So my
Okay.
last relationship was monogamous.
Yes.
But I've always just felt like, why I don't understand it. And I feel like it comes out of a history of owning people, owning women. So I don't, but then I just had the thought a couple days ago, what if you were poly? What if you feel that because I'm like, I don't feel jealous really. I'm like, please do what you want. But within, the confines of safety and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking the other day, maybe I've been poly this whole time because I don't actually have a deeper emotional connection to the men that I've been seeing.
Yes.
So I wonder if it would change once I get heart connected to a woman or a non-binary person or a trans person. I don't know. Short answer is I like the ideas of poly. I've done it before and it's been successful. And then I've also done monogamy out of
Yeah.
obligation.
Yeah.
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 And I don't have trouble with it. I'm not like, I don't seek a lot in that way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really just so interesting, and there's so much to really explore with where you are.
mhm,
And then there's this fear around, you know, that you're actually straight, that you're
mhm,
actually heterosexual. And, I mean, and you've had the experiences outside of heterosexual relationships, but they've been really sort of playing out a very heteronormative sexual dynamic
mhm,
in your mind. So they
mhm,
haven't been heart connected
mhm,
and deep desire on your part connected types of relationships well, I guess any of them really. I
mhm.
mean, none of them were,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, we can say
Mhm.
that.
It was all within this structure that was handed to me,
Yes.
that I was like, I will take this and run with it. And I ran far with it. And now I'm like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
here I am.
Yeah. So it feels to me like, um, you know, I'm going to say it's like we can imagine that you're like back at that point where like you came out to your mom in a way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's sort of where you are, in a lot of ways, even developmentally around your sexuality. Like you've had to undo and unpack and unbox
Mhm.
and get rid of a lot of things. But those years when we're in adolescence, so, for many of us are those times where we're slowly like putting things into our bag about
Mhm.
who we are and what we like and what really turns us on. And, if we have that freedom to live in the world outside of misogyny and compulsory heterosexuality and all the things
Mhm.
we're told and taught that we have to do in order to, really be pleasant for other people.
Yeah.
Um, right? And not really connecting to our own pleasure. So you're at this point where you're like back to being like 16 essentially.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of um experimentation for you, meaning
Mhm.
you know, like, for example, you said this one person where you're like, I really dig you. Like, you're cool. And like, I don't know
Mhm.
what it is. It's not necessarily like a sexual attraction per se, but kind of like exploring what that leads to for you,
Mhm.
because you might be demisexual.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's possible. I'm
Yeah.
demisexual. So I might find somebody extremely attractive, look at them and be like, wow, that's a really attractive person. But if you said to me, okay, well, this person is ready, go for it.
Mhm.
I'd be like, absolutely not. I don't know this
Right.
person. I need to know who they are. I need to be a little bit connected to them. I need to like feel their energy. I can't I'm not feeling desire for them. I just find them attractive.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we don't know for you, we don't know how your desire is going to show up.
Right.
But I like the idea that you're really open to ethical non-monogamy or polyamory, because I feel like you could really benefit from having more than one
Mhm.
connection so that you can explore where and how your desire does show up.
Mhm.
Um, because it's all new. Like, you
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
You might really need to be emotionally connected to someone. And the reason that you haven't felt that heart connection before is because you haven't had that emotional connection,
Yeah.
deep emotional connection with somebody before, and see, does that open something up in you that creates space for this desire to flow.
Mhm.
I'm very curious about that for you. And I don't remember in your application, I think you said you don't want to be in a relationship.
Mm-mm.
Are you open to exploring?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I've just been kind of waiting for it to present itself. And it's been about a year.
Yeah.
I used to, I don't think I ever went a year without some kind of sexual engagement because I was really seeking and desperate for it all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
always from men.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I just, it's like peaceful waters.
Yeah.
There's no waves. And I'm just kind of sitting in this peace with it, which is a relief.
Such a relief.
Such a relief. And, and unpacking like all the codependency behaviors and all
Yes.
of that stuff too. And so now I'm just kind of at this piece, but I'll tell you, like, I've always been involved in the queer community, but also like sexual communities.
Yep.
And, I've been going to play parties since I was 19. And I, last summer, my ex and kids were away for a month and a half. And I threw all of these parties, and I threw a nighttime outdoor play party. And, I think I'm really good. It felt so good. I am really good at creating a awesome party, an awesome space where people feel comfortable, and I played a lot, and I engage a lot in a kink way.
Uh-huh.
And for me, it's like, I don't necessarily, there was moments where I felt like engaged in my genitals, but for the most part, it doesn't go there. But it's like this sexual play that I can get those kinds of releases. Or I was at a play party just last weekend. I spanked a good friend, and I feel good in those moments. And I like to express myself in those moments. But it doesn't necessarily turn over into like anything that would necessarily get into genital touching um, or orgasm or anything like that. So I am still like engaged, I feel like, in a sexual and community kind of way. And it was also really great. It was about a year ago that it was official that me and my ex were off.
Okay.
It took a couple months for like people to start coming out of the woodwork. And I feel good about my own mojo. I'm
Yep.
like, I know that there's people out there that are interested in me, and everybody's been chill and cool about it, where I'm just like, I'm just not in a space yet to even think about it. So I don't know. We'll see what this summer holds. I'm kind of looking forward to like the vibes and the energy of all of it. And I'm hoping something of a sexual nature comes out of it and I get a little more clarity. But yeah, it's just been like very peaceful waters. And I'm kind of like, I know I could have sex with this person. They've made that clear, but I'm not sure that I even want somebody that close to my face. You know what I mean? I'm like, the idea of like kissing someone just seems like really intimate. Like I'm not necessarily ready for that on a certain level, but I'm getting close. I feel like I could.
And this is somebody that you've known for a while that you're talking about?
Yeah, I've known her for a while, but she's kind of in the peripheral and then kind of came a lot closer once the relationship ended. And I mean, I will say once I masturbated looking at a photo of her. And that's really the only time that I've crossed over that thing where there's like an actual person that I'm thinking of. And it also felt weird. Like I was like, am I objectifying her right now? So I don't know. I'm just in a very different spot with the whole thing. But I do, the thing that holds me back is I'm like, I think she would want more from me than I can give.
Okay.
She's going to want follow-up text. She's going to want like dinners and she wants a relationship, I think. And I'm just like, not. And I don't have that space in my emotional life, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think that's this place where you're saying like, I don't want to hurt people. And so that's why I just think being really honest, which it sounds like you are, with everyone about where you are, when you do kind of move towards some kind of dating or exploring or being a little bit open, I think it's going to be important to also let everybody know that you're doing that with where you are, that you're not actually open. You're not opening yourself up to a monogamous long-term relationship or even a serious relationship. You're just opening yourself up to exploring, getting to know this person and how that feels and where you can experience pleasure and desire and connection. So people can say like, I'm not sure, I'm not sure that's what I'm looking for. I'm not sure I want to do that with you. Or if I do that with you, I'm going to want more from you. Just having these really honest conversations about it. You're not responsible for somebody else. Once you've been honest with them, once you say your piece, if they're like, okay, I'm good, then if they get hurt, that's on them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I think as long as you're honest and real with people, if they get hurt, that's not on you.
Yeah. 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 And I think like part of it is, and this draws me more towards like that heterosexuality isn't necessarily for me, is that I just really care about not hurting any women, I guess, in this way that I didn't care so much with men. Like I've had lots of one night stands with men and it's just like, who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it's because I'm not trying to get the validation from them also. So it's like this whole other kind of space. And I wonder about like the actual like sexual acts, like not only my skill level, but am I top? Am I a bottom? Am I a verse? Like, do I want to involve toys? Do I not? This and that. And like, and I'm sure it'll just depend on the person, and
it totally will change depending on who you're with. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm really interested in having the kind of sex that is outside of that formulaic kind of thing that has really, I mean, I think I came of age right when porn was really hitting the internet. And so you just end up seeing like so much stuff where you're like, I guess this is sex. So, it's just, I'm an open book right now. I'm just waiting to see what's going to get written, I guess.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of really approaching sex just as pleasure.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily even mean orgasm. And that it's really just about what does it feel like to experience pleasure, however that happens for you. And that, taking all the, very restrictive definitions of sex just off the table. So like there doesn't have to be penetration, there doesn't have to be orgasm, but just allowing your body to experience what it's like to be with another person's body and have pleasure that really starts to fill you up with like intense feelings of desire
Mm-hmm.
and just like experiencing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's like after having like 3 decades of focusing on male pleasure,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really hard to totally connect with what, if that's taken out,
Yeah. Then
what do we have?
what do we have? And I've talked
Mm-hmm.
to other, other women and other people who really, they have just such a narrow definition around sex,
Mm-hmm.
and it just has to have the orgasm. And then
Right.
there becomes like this pressurized feeling around the sex that they're having. And then they become kind of avoidant of not really wanting to do it because there's like this pressure, like I'm tired. I had a long day. I was taking care of the kids. I was running around. I was, doing whatever I'm doing. And now I have to like spend 2 hours and have an orgasm. It's like, no, you
Yeah.
don't have to, you can just, um, what makes you feel good? What gives you pleasure? Maybe you're just getting a little bit of stimulation for a little while and then you just stop there and you let yourself walk around with that feeling of stimulation for the next however many days until maybe you have a little bit more stimulation and you don't even have the orgasm, but you know what it's like to walk around
Mm-hmm.
with this feeling inside that like, oh God, like, I want more. I want to
Mm-hmm.
experience this desire. I can't wait for the next time.
Yeah.
Um, just because yours has been so male focused, it hasn't been focused on you and what
Mm-mm.
you want and what you like and what you need. I just really like that idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you're making. Like, I'm realizing how much I have felt like that pressure. I mean, in like hetero relationships, it's always like, and people talk about it all the time, like, oh, you can't snuggle because then it's going to lead to, they're going to think it's an invitation because it's always got to be taken to this full extent,
Yes.
or I remember like with my ex, it was very important to him that I orgasm,
Yeah,
but it's really for his pleasure. He
totally.
likes to see me orgasm. So then I have this pressure to
Yes.
have this sensation come over me. And it becomes like a chore,
It's a chore. Yeah.
yeah. And I worry about, I think that I can feel that I'm putting some of that pressure on me around what my new ventures will be, because it's like, oh, what if they're like wanting me to orgasm, but I don't have it, and then but it's really like all of that's okay. And then also just engaging with people that are not going to have that. If we snuggle, I'm going to assume that eventually I'm going to be inside of you by the end of the night.
Yeah.
It's like, even the like penetrative sex, I've only started like deconstructing, where I'm like, oh my God. I saw some statistic around like both gay men and women engage, or that do not engage in penetration. It's something like 25%. But then with hetero couples, it's like 3% or something.
Yeah.
And it just shows that like pressure that's coming from this uneven power dynamic. And
Yes.
I think that's like the main thing, is like, I just don't want that power dynamic anymore. I want to be two magical beings on this rock hurtling through space
Yeah.
that are finding a moment of enjoyment with each other.
Are you thinking maybe I should contact Samantha so I can come on the podcast and have a conversation with her about what is going on with me? If so, go to unboxyoursexuality.com and fill out the form so that you can apply to be a guest on this podcast, and we can talk about whatever it is that is keeping you stuck in the box and unable to live your authenticity. Join me. Yeah, it's really that pleasure and desire piece and being able to speak to that and saying like, I want you to fuck me now
Mm-hmm.
because you want that.
Right.
You
Right.
really want that. You're like, now, like right now.
Yeah.
I can't stand another second.
Yeah.
Which I see you're laughing, but like, that's really like, that is possible. Oh, I remember I was interviewing these two women They were a couple. They both had been married to men. And then they met while they were both married, and they came together, and we were having a conversation about their early sexual encounters. And they were talking about how both of them were trying to figure out like how to kind of feel satisfied themselves. And also really scared to have what I'm talking about, which is like, I need you to fuck me right now.
Right.
Feelings, because they thought that then meant that maybe they really weren't gay.
Right. Yeah.
So there's also this idea, I think, that I have heard quite pervasive in the at least lesbian community, of this idea of penetration. Like, if you want penetration, you should be with a man. Which I'm just like, what on, like, where are you people getting this from? You know? Because, you know, we are, the way that our sexual response systems are built, there is like actually, you know, a desire, like we want to be penetrated at times, not everybody, but if you do, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're straight. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. And, you know, it's just being able to fully experience this whole wide world of experiences and not slotting them into, okay, now we're having straight sex, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to all of these lines being really blurred in anyway. I feel like the only reason why we have to decide, like, when I was coming of age, like in the 90s, you were gay, you were straight, or you were bi, right? And there's very few bi people, it seemed like, but it's like that you would have to filter yourself into two categories. It's like the whole gender thing, like you're male or you're female. And I'm like, just two choices. There's billions of people, but we got two choices. Like, it just seems like the spectrum is involved in everything. And so I think that I probably am very spectrum-y, but also, you know, caught up in the ways of the world and everything. And I don't know, the definitions at this point, I'm kind of like, I'll kind of take up pansexual just because it's like, why not everybody? Like, who would I, in what circumstance would I not be attracted to, you know? But I don't know. It's like, yes, and, or.
Yeah, because it sounds like it's not a gender thing.
Yeah.
The gender norms don't work for you, but gender is fluid and open, and you're not like, I'm only attracted to this one gender.
Right.
I'm open to anyone that's anywhere on this whole spectrum, as long as they're not coming in, if they are male, that they're not coming in with this heteronormative idea and power differential in the relationship. They have to be quite evolved.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But I might find myself attracted to a man that is quite evolved.
Yeah. That is one of my worries.
I want to hear a little bit more about this fear. I'm going to say that there's a part of you that is afraid that you are attracted to, I mean, I don't know if it's attracted to men or if it's more of the label. Like, you know, can you possibly be in a relationship with a man but not be heterosexual?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also, that there's lots of ways to be in relationship also, you know, so it doesn't necessarily have to, but yeah, I think the issue partly is that I feel I've gotten to that point of disgust of protecting myself, like coming to the realization of the ways in which I was manipulated, not by individuals, but by the fucking system. That involves individuals. I don't think anybody's doing it purposefully, but the ways in which I was manipulated, and in many ways that I participated in my own victimization and my own power lowering. I don't know how
Yeah.
to say it, diminutive, whatever. So I think there's like the process of coming out of that. There is that layer of disgust that is a protective thing. Like, I don't want that anymore. My body is repulsed by it now.
Yeah.
So I think that's partly where the fear comes from, is that, but what if like this is actually your deal and then you have to like somehow participate with the man again? But yeah, there are unicorn men, there are evolved men, there are, you know, that whole thing. But then there's also the social layer. Like, I've always felt in my friend group, not from them, they've always been very accepting of whoever I've been with. And they were very accepting of my husband. They were like, you found the one, you know, and I'm like, I did at the time. So, but I really want to be queer. You know, and I know I'm queer on certain levels, but like, I would like to be sexually queer. I want to be more expansive. So I think I would be disappointed if I wasn't, you know.
So let me just ask you this. At this point, would you say that because of everything that you learned and how that really kind of kept you from yourself and knowing what you desire, would you say that you don't know if you are attracted to women, non-binary folks? I know men, there seems to be more of a feeling that I'm getting from you that you certainly believe that you can be attracted to a man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. And I'll have these moments where I'll have like a flash of like very penetrative, like hetero sex, and I'll get this moment of like turn on, and then I feel like kind of grossed out by it. So I think that's the dynamic going on inside of my body, is that like I've had amazing sex with men, but it has been, I think, like pinnacle sex for men, you know,
Yeah.
in this way. Like I've had great orgasms. I've had like marathon, you know, but it's always in that space of this is a male desire situation. I don't know where I was going with that. So, but it's confusing in my body. I think I have physical reactions to that kind of sex also.
In a negative
I don't
way?
know. In a positive and a negative. Like, I can
Okay.
have a sexual response. Yeah. So I don't
So
know.
men, okay, they're over here, but then
hmm
let's turn over to like the queer world.
hmm
Have you felt attracted in a sensual way to queer people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I had a sex dream about a friend, a
Okay.
very butch friend. That was great.
So
Um,
I think that then that's already like, if you were a heterosexual human,
mhm.
you would not be having those feelings,
Right.
right? Because I have friends that are really heterosexual, like
hmm
they're all the way at the end. They're not interested. They have no, they've
hmm
done it because their husband wanted them to.
Right.
They've done threesomes. You know, they've tried it. They had sex with a woman. They're like, no, thanks. I'm
Yeah.
not interested. I'd like to find myself a man. And, you know, they don't have those. They're not having the dreams and they're not having the desire. So we can already say, no matter who you end up with, you
hmm
are queer.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight people are not, you know, having sexy dreams about their butch friends, you know?
Yeah. And I think I don't have that many straight friends, so I kind of forget what straight people are like.
Yes, they are very straight. I mean, when they're all the way at one end of the spectrum, right? And then I have plenty of straight friends who are like, are you kidding me? When I'm having sex with my boyfriend or my husband, we bring in imaginary women or in the room with us.
hmm
I'm having sex with her, even though she's not really there. And I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of queer, you know? You've got some queerness in you.
hmm
So
Yeah.
you're not fully straight. Like, if that's what you're doing, you're not fully straight. The definition of straight is man, woman, no, you know, nobody else coming in, no same sex things happening.
hmm Yeah. And I think I'm realizing in this conversation that I think I have maybe like some kind of not not enoughism or imposter syndrome around queerness and queer community that I'm just putting on myself. You know, like I think I've always been enough for my friends and the community, but I'm just like, have always felt like I'm a bit of an outsider. And so now that I'm trying to fully say, like, yes, I am also queer. I'm not just like your straight friend that's like a little weird, you know? So I think it's part of claiming that identity and
Yes.
being, I am queer enough, you know,
Yes.
like, yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that, again, there's a part of you that's telling you that you're not queer enough
Mm-hmm.
and you're not
Yeah.
enough in this area to be seen that way. I'm not sure what the goal is of that part. What do you think that part that's saying that to you that keeps coming up? What is it? What is its goal? What is it trying to do? What is it trying to achieve when it says to you, you know, you're not really part of this group? I mean, yes, these are your friends, but you're not really queer enough to be one of these people. You're just not quite enough. You don't fully fit in.
I think it's just a general thing of protecting myself from relationships being too deep or liking something too much because it can be taken away.
Okay.
You know, so I think it's part of that, like, don't let them know that you're fully invested, because then they have power to harm you in
Okay.
a certain way. So I, because I'm like welling up as you're talking about that. And I'm like, so I think it's like partly self-esteem that I still need to work on, that I'm realizing I think imposter syndrome is largely like I'm not enough. So therefore I'm not going to be enough in any situation,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
But
being
we're
able to,
really being
go,
very specific here. Like,
right.
really, we're really just going right into this particular group, which is the queer community that you
Mm-hmm,
have, and you've told me that you're quite involved in and
mm-hmm,
deeply immersed in.
mm-hmm,
And yet there's this part of you that's coming up that's saying, yeah, but you know, you're kind of like an imposter. You're not really one of these queer people. You're not fully queer. You can't be fully integrated into this group. And I'm hearing you say that that part of you is saying that because it keeps you from feeling like I'm hearing I could get hurt. If I am really
yeah.
fully part of this group, then somehow I'm vulnerable. I
Mm-hmm,
become more vulnerable if I am really in this group, and I
yeah.
can get hurt.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then what?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like an important part. It's like I can get hurt and then be okay.
That's the piece.
Right. Yeah.
Because, you know, we all get hurt.
Right.
We are human. The difference is we are adult humans,
Right.
which is very different than being a child human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And getting hurt as a child when you have no tools whatsoever is very different than being hurt as an adult, where you can call your therapist and you have
Mm-hmm.
all these different tools that you told me that you learned through the therapy that you've gone through on how to regulate your system, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get hurt. Relationships, even when you're deeply in love with somebody and you're very connected and you're actually really in the relationship, we still get hurt.
Right. Yeah.
And that's, and you know, that's part of the relationship, like, and it's part of the evolution of the relationship, is being able to speak about that and communicate about that and
Right.
share how that thing that they said or did, how it felt to you and
Mm-hmm.
why it felt that way and how they might be able to do it differently next time, right? That's kind of like the next level of relationship that we're talking about for you.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's the other side of the codependency that I'm trying to dismantle is not only, like you were saying before, like you can be open and honest with someone, and if they decide to engage with you and that hurts them, that's on them, right?
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is, am I willing to show up as myself and be open to the possibility that the vulnerability that brings up, that I could get hurt, and that's part of life. I'm not responsible for their emotions, and they're not responsible for mine also. So
Correct.
I think part of me probably still feels like I'm putting my heart into their hands, but that's not true. My heart's always still with me.
Yeah.
And it's like in life, you physically get hurt. In life, you're going to emotionally get hurt. These are just the facts of life.
Yes.
And yeah.
And it's those places where you allow yourself to be vulnerable and something does happen and there is like some, small, I'm going to say like paper cut, that happens, that you have a conversation about and you work through, that actually allows a relationship to start to get stronger and like you feel closer when you can say like, ouch, like the way you just said that, that landed really hard on me, I'm going to need like to just sit with that for a little bit, but I definitely want to like talk about it with you later. And, you go take a walk or whatever it is. Right. But having a partner or being in a relationship with somebody who's like, okay, let's talk about it. And they can say like, yeah, that I don't know where that came out of. Like this thing triggered me. And, you talk things through, which I think, I think a lot of, certainly poly relationships, but a lot of queer relationships, if you're with somebody who's done the work, I just think that there's so much potential for so much growth in this area of healing parts of yourself that are really scared of being vulnerable and starting to feel safer being vulnerable and like it's okay. And I can talk to my partner and I can regulate myself. And I can do both of those things. And yeah, I think that this part of you that I'm hearing that comes out, that's like, I don't know. Am I queer? Like, I'm not sure I fit in here fully. Is really trying to protect you, little young you, not you today. It doesn't sound like it's a today. It doesn't line up with who you are as an adult today. Like the person I'm seeing in front of me, that part is protecting a younger you.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great insight because, not fitting in as a child was,
Traumatic.
Sometimes physically painful, so, and it has such a bigger, deal. I mean, it's like that whole thing of like, if you're not able to fit into your family system as a child, like it's literally life threatening. Like you need them to
take
accept
care of
you. Yeah. And I'm not in that space anymore.
You're not in that space anymore. You're taking care of yourself, you're self-reliant. You'll always have your back. You'll always show up for yourself. You don't need, a group of people to have your back. I mean, we need community and we need to be close and have people that love us and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like you are your person.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm a good enough companion. I'm actually an excellent companion. And I think that was a big part of me coming into myself, is realizing that I'm actually the person that I do want on my side. I am my first like relationship and friend. So
yeah. So you have your back.
Yeah.
So you belong.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of the labels. I think we interviewed on our podcast a gender doula, and they were talking about how they're helping people through their transitions and all this stuff. And they were talking about how at the beginning, as you're starting to process, am I this gender? Am I that gender? It's like to kind of get rid of all of the labels at the beginning, because there becomes this amount of, am I queer enough? Am I trans enough, to take on these labels? And then the labels start putting pressure on you in this way. And yeah, so it's just like, I don't know, all of the above is what I'm choosing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like it's a very open, very expansive time for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear the fears and it's like, I'm scared I'm straight. You're not straight.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you need to believe that, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
Right.
you're queer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, who you end up with as a queer person that you are, you'll see.
Yeah.
And it might be many people.
Yeah.
And you might have many different experiences. And it's like each area that you're exploring needs to be equally expansive.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, in terms
Yeah.
of like, where's your desire? Like, how do I know, like, how do I experience my desire? How do I know if I'm having desire for this person versus this person, or I'm actually sexually intimate with this person in this moment? Like, what do I want
Mm-hmm.
right now? What do I want to do? What do I want done to me?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want the two of us to be doing? What am I feeling? What is happening inside of me? So it's like a really deep connection to your core.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just where you are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It does definitely feel like this blossoming process. And I feel like I'm just starting to have my petals open a bit, to have this fuller experience of life, a more
Yeah.
authentic experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful place to be. And it's also, you think about adolescence and being in that place. And in so many ways, it's less safe in adolescence because we don't have the tools that you have
Mm-hmm.
today. We don't have the communication skills that you have today.
Mm-hmm. No, I think adolescence is a great way to refer to it as, because it also has that quality. I remember being a teenager and being like, what is my life going to be like? It's
Yeah.
just this open book
Yes.
that anything is possible. And I have that kind of feeling, and it has some fear to it because
Of
you
course.
don't know. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, it's just like really expansive right now. And it does feel, my life was feeling more and more pinholed.
Yep.
And then now it just like in the past couple of years really exploded open again, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's exciting, but again, I'm hearing the fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's also, what is it going to be? And I don't know. And there's always some fear in there, but just trying to connect to that fear when it does come up and
Mm-hmm.
remind it that at the end of the day, you have you
Yeah.
and you're a great companion and you love being with yourself. And
Yeah.
that no matter what, you're okay.
Yeah. And I like the thing of kind of asking the fear what its purpose is.
Yes.
So I can be like, oh, right, you're protecting this child that she's not here anymore, you know?
Yeah. There's the question of what's its
Mhm.
goal.
What's its
And
goal?
then what's its goal? And then once it shares what its goal is, then checking in with what it's afraid would happen if it didn't come in and share this fear with you.
Yeah.
What could happen if it didn't come in and warn you about, X, Y, or Z, this fear it's holding? If it just stayed silent, what might then happen?
Right. And I think my fear is almost always trying to isolate me. That's my body's strategy, is like, just get away from the people so that you don't get hurt. And it's really, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, I feel so drawn to community. Every community event that we have feels so much more powerful. And that's really a super, actually, like, safe place for me if I allow myself to fully participate, you know?
Yeah. And the other piece about this fear that comes in that is trying to isolate you to keep you safe,
Mm-hmm.
if you have the ability, is to really acknowledge how hard that part has worked and for how long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and how loyal it is. It just shows up all the time. It has
Mm-hmm.
the same, the same MO over and over and over, and shows up all the time. And if possible, to give it some appreciation and
Mm-hmm.
gratitude for what it has done for you, because that came out of your early years when
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have any tools. This part showed you how to isolate and get away from those people that are going to be hurting you.
Right. Yeah.
And it's still doing that because it doesn't know that you're however old you are today.
Mm-hmm.
45,
Yeah.
45.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're 45. So it's just doing what it knows how to do, and all it wants to do is keep you safe.
Right.
And what happens is these parts we have, they can be so uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
that we really just want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But that's not really what the part needs from you.
Mm-hmm.
It really needs compassion and love and gratitude and appreciation and acknowledgement
Yeah.
of how hard it has worked your entire life to protect little Robin.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what it's needing. So in, asking it the questions from a really curious, open, hey, what's your goal? I feel you here. Like, what are you worried about? What would you happen if you weren't here? And also, thank you so much for showing up and trying to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate your energy and your efforts. And I also just want to update you to where I am today.
Right.
Because today I'm 45 and I'm a mother, I'm a parent, and I'm living on my own and I'm dependent upon myself. And, I'm not sure you know that, but I just want to update you on where I am. And you don't have to go away, but maybe you can just sit down,
Yeah.
seat.
And also, yeah, and updating it that there's, all people don't have to be, you don't have to isolate from all people, that there are like people that
Safe.
will look out for you and help provide safety for you and community and stuff like that. Because like a 4-year-old doesn't have community within their family to, when they're trying to isolate.
Right.
There
So
isn't that strategy. Yeah.
that's the update. It's sort
The
of like,
update.
how can you really give this very protective part of you the updates that it needs, like version 5.0 of Robin, because it's functioning on
Yeah.
version 1.0.
No, I can tell what you're saying is so true because like I can feel the emotion in me. It's like that part of me just feeling recognized. And then also recognizing like it's like the sadness of the situation of, what, young Robin went through and
Yes.
that nobody was there to protect her. But then now I'm here. I
Yeah.
can be the adult to protect her. And then also like we have so many other tools now, including wonderful people in a really brilliant avant-garde community that's like not only providing support for each other but showing the rest of the world that we can live in a more authentic, loving way. I believe it like deeply in my heart. Like
Yeah.
it's like identity, but it's also for me it's like a worldview, like how we're going to change the world for the better.
Yeah.
you know so yeah, I got to release myself from those confines of
Yeah.
my childhood in a certain way,
Yeah. Which is going to be done by really loving up on this very protective part
Yeah.
that you have.
It's like the thing we make our own cage, and
Yeah.
I've released myself from so many parts of the cage, like the marriage and stuff like that. But it's internal as well.
This part is your survival mechanism that kicked in before you had any tools or ways to manage the fear that you were feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And the aloneness, I'm going to say, that you were feeling.
Yeah.
This part is not even necessarily the cage. It's just how you were going to survive those years where you needed, like you said, you needed these people to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you wouldn't have survived on your own. You couldn't just leave, go off as a 6-year-old and
Right.
function and live in the world. You needed people to help you and to feed you and to get clothes for you and all of those things. So this part helped you through all of that.
Right.
So it's your survival protector, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's like two sides of the same coin, you know? It protects you when you're young, and then it restricts you when
Yeah,
you're
because you
older.
grow out of it, but we all do. Like, and
Right.
this is what a lot of people come to me with, right? They're kind of like, I'm stuck because I can't move forward because this part is keeping me stuck. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, that's because it doesn't know that you're now an adult and you're no longer living in that house.
Right. Yep.
So that's where the work comes in, where you actually start to form a relationship with that part as if
Mm-hmm.
it were somebody you're in relationship with. Like, this is your own, this is your very special protector.
Yeah. No, I think that's the biggest thing I'm going to come away with from this is that there is this underlying fear around belonging, I think, that is holding me back from my own exploration. And the fact is that I already belong,
Yes.
even if it's not in the community that I currently am, which I do belong in.
Yes.
I'm a fundamental part of it. But even if that weren't true, I still belong to myself, and I can find, compatriots in other places if I needed to,
Yes.
but I do have all of these things. So being afraid of it, and kind of pushing back against it through acting as though I'm not good enough is really just like, I don't know. I want to participate more fully in that way. So I think that'll be easier to recognize after this, of like giving it space and gratitude and changing my strategy up.
It really needs a lot of gratitude
Mm-hmm.
for it to soften.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, is how can I soften this part so I can fully really be embraced and allow myself to be embraced in this community. This part
Mm-hmm.
needs to soften. I need to love it up. I need to give it so much compassion and appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has worked really hard. Like,
Yeah.
it really did do its job. It's still doing it. It won't soften until you really love it up.
Right. Yeah. Dog exchange.
Yeah.
Chihuahua. Oh, Chihuahua poodle time. Sweet babies. So quiet. You did a
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah. What a cute. So I hope that feels helpful. You're in such a beautiful, like I said, a very expansive place. There's just all this empty space, and like, you can plant whatever kind of gardens you're going to want to have in
Mm-hmm.
this space. And as long as you can love your protective parts and get them to quiet down, I just think there's so much possibility. I mean, this is really an exciting time in your life for you.
It is. It is. And it's nice to be this far into life and have newness and excitement and self-discovery. So,
Yes.
and I'm just going to say it again. I appreciate you. You really blew my mind open on the TikToks, and I love the work that you're doing out there. I appreciate this time with you. To have direct attention from you on my life, like, feels very nice, and I'm honored. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming on and for being open and for sharing this, because hopefully there's at least one other person, if not 10 other people, that are having some of these same struggles and brave enough to come on and talk about it. Hopefully we'll help others. So thanks, Robin.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
Thank you for spending this time with me on Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more folks find these conversations. If you're ready to unbox from something that's keeping you stuck, I would love to support you. You can find the application to the show at unboxyoursexuality.com. Let's stay connected. Find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Lesbian Curiosity Coach. Give me a follow and join the conversation. Remember, we only have this one time through. Why not unbox yourself and let your true self shine in all its beautiful glory?